On a night when Dwyane Wade's induction to the Naismith Hall of Fame was being honored in the Kaseya Center, the Heat took care of business against a struggling Hornets team and secured an easy win. But did we learn more about Nikola Jovic's role in the team? And we talk about the return of Tyler Herro to the lineup as more players continue to succumb to injury. A great show breaking down what you need to know to start the week on today's Locked On Heat.
You are Locked On Heat, your daily Miami Heat podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to Locked On Heat, your daily podcast on the Miami Heat. I'm Wes Goldberg, editor at allyoucanheat.com. Joining me as always, longtime NBA reporter David Ramil. However you're tuning in, YouTube, Odyssey, or your favorite podcast app, thanks so much for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Jase Medical. Empower yourself when you purchase a Jase case, providing you with a personal supply of 5 antibiotics that treat 50-plus infections. Get yours today at jasemedical.com and use the code LOCKEDON to get $20 off your order. We're going to talk about the Heat's plans to honor Dwyane Wade with a statue and a Hornets player that might be trying out for the Heat ahead of the trade deadline in a minute. But let's start with the game, David, which wasn't a close one. The Heat beat the Hornets 104-87. They never trailed. They led by as many as 24 points. The Heat shot nearly 50% in this game. But more importantly, the Hornets shot less than 35% in the game. They missed 17 of their first 18 threes. It might have been even more than that. Yeah. What was your takeaway from this game?
It's a struggling Hornets team. I said that at the top, and I think was the huge difference is that even in the pregame press conference, Steve Clifford made an admission that I'm not sure I've heard it. We're under-talented on many occasions. That's very shocking to hear a coach say, I recognize that we just don't have the talent on a night-to-night basis.
That's the opposite of we have enough.
Yeah. It really is. It really is. And I know that they're going through their own injury bug and everything else like that. But even when their players are healthy, they just don't seem to ever really tie together into any kind of impactful winning ways. But more often than not tonight, we saw why they continue to struggle. Like, I don't know that Miami really dominated in any kind of particular aspect other than three-point shooting. The disparity between the two teams from the perimeter was pretty huge. But other than that, Miami didn't play with a huge amount of force or anything like that. There was just a play after play where Charlotte would just cough up the ball, wouldn't knock down a shot, would just seem to be kind of out of sync. But Miami was able to capitalize it to their credit. So I think that's really a huge takeaway from this. It was Miami did enough. I liked Eric Spoelstra saying after the game, it was a professional win.
Professional approach.
Yeah, professional approach. Kind of putting aside everything that happened with Dwyane and the halftime ceremony, which we'll talk about a little bit later, and just casting those emotions to the side to realize, look, we realize we're playing Charlotte. We got to get a win because we're going to go on the road for 2 games.
They stink. That team stinks. And he mentioned that this could have been a trap game because it was the last game of this homestand.
Yes.
Obviously, the back-to-back, you go to Brooklyn tomorrow night. You could be looking ahead of that. The emotions of the Dwyane Wade thing, a little bit of a longer halftime ceremony because of that. Like there was a lot of – and you have some players coming back from injury. You're still missing other players from injury. The Jimmy Butler, he didn't play in this game. We didn't know whether he was going to play in this game or not, even though the Heat probably had a better idea of what was actually going to happen in this one. No Kevin Love in this game for Miami either. Tyler Herro came back. Kyle Lowry came back. And so, there's kind of like a lot of different things up in the air. And to your point, Spo just said, hey, we had a professional approach, and I liked it, especially early in the game. This thing could have went sideways. They missed like half a dozen shots, point blank at the basket in that first half.
1 of 9 to start the game for Miami. They were shooting just as badly as Charlotte was. Eventually, they found their rhythm. Yeah, but
I'm going to try to do math here. That means that for the rest of the game, they went 39
for
72.
Yeah, that's over 50% there.
That's better. They could have went sideways. It didn't. They handled their business. They beat a really bad Hornets team. Spo mentioned that the goal was kind of go 3-1 on this homestand before it happened, and that's exactly what they did. They got beat bad by a much better Oklahoma City Thunder team, but they turned around. They did what they had to do against Orlando. They did what they had to do against Charlotte tonight. So now they finished the homestand 3-1. And then they look ahead to Brooklyn tomorrow night, for which Jimmy Butler will travel.
Yes.
Jimmy Butler is going to travel for that game. Kevin Love will not travel. Jaime Jaquez Jr. got hurt in this game. He had 15 points in 14 and a half minutes, 7-11 shooting, scored 15 of Miami's first 22 points in this game. I know we're about to do the credit cookies portion of the show. He's going to get some, even though he had to leave early. Groin injury. That's what it's being reported as.
Yep.
He said, Spo said it's not as severe as the one that sidelined him for a couple of weeks earlier. So that's good news. And then he's not going to travel to Brooklyn tomorrow or tonight. and won't play in that game tomorrow. And then he's going to be considered day-to-day after that. But as we've been joking all season long, day-to-day means absolutely nothing for this
So he
team.
wouldn't be available for Toronto either, I imagine.
I would assume that that's not going to happen. So, but let's do the credit cookies. How many?
I'm giving 4 players credit cookies tonight.
4.
I'm going to start off with Jaime, who I think gets 2. Like, even the fact that he just didn't play as long, I think he was incredibly impactful. He was just driving to the rim with ease. He just seemed to ignite Miami's fast break and transition offense.
This is another one of those games where I'm not sure the other team scouted him. And there have been a few of these where they're, because he's a rookie or whatever, they don't have the tape on him. But the Hornets have played the Heat before.
The playbooks are saying that he's 4th in the 6th man of the year race. Like, how the hell don't you know who he is at this point? He's the 3rd best rookie. He's the 4th best bench player, if you want to call him that, based on the fact that he was coming off the bench earlier, but he has started a number of games without Jimmy there. He's good enough to warrant your attention, and he continues to impress.
Put a body in front of him. You mentioned like he was getting to the paint like with ease. It was like the Hornets didn't expect him to dribble. Like I just, that team stinks. It's my biggest takeaway.
It really is.
You used the phrase when we were watching it at Media Row. It's like this team just throws up all over themselves, and I'm like, yeah, that's how they play basketball.
Yeah.
All right. So you have 2 for Jaime. I agree with you.
Yeah, I've got 2 for Tyler in his return there. I think it was mostly really impactful. 7 of 15 from the floor, 4 of 9 from 3-point range. Really great shooting night for him. 21 total points, and it was within the context of everything they were trying to accomplish. 7 rebounds, 4 assists. Honestly, it was a really great game from him. I don't think there was anything underwhelming about the performance. I know a lot of people are kind of, he might be in a lot of Heat fans' respective doghouse tonight, or following the loss to Oklahoma City a couple of days ago. But I think he's, kind of acquitted himself very nicely. Really solid performance. Yeah. Just didn't seem like it was a huge. Miami needed all of those points, but at the same time, I don't think it was really like this huge game or anything.
No, it wasn't. I mean, he had 21 points in the game. He was Miami's second leading scorer, but that's all they needed. He only played 28 and a half minutes anyway. They didn't really need a big Tyler game. So I'm okay. I'm okay with 2 to him. Bam was the guy that led them in scoring. 24 points, 10 rebounds, 7 assists, a blocked shot. He was awesome. 9 of 17 shooting.
Yeah, I've got 3 for him.
Yeah,
because I think he was just, again, the duty of having to do everything he does on defense and on offense. There were moments there where, as I think Charlotte clawed their way back and started cutting into that lead and came within, I think, 13 at one point, maybe even 11. They cut that lead down to late in the game, and then Bam had to come in, and of course, immediately they went on a run because that's Bam Adebayo. But he just had to work so much, and I feel kind of bad for him, to be honest with you. I'm not used to saying this about Bam Adebayo, but he played way too many minutes today. Like, he should not have played 35 minutes against this Charlotte team. He should not have been out there for as long as he was, but they needed him to be out there. That's why he gets the extra credit cookie.
Well, no, Spo not playing Thomas Bryant at all in this game. Orlando Robinson got 2 minutes of garbage time. Maybe you could have put him in a little bit earlier. But they basically went with Nikola Jovic as their backup center because they didn't have Kevin Love available. So I thought it was interesting.
Yes.
So 3 for Bam. Who's the other one? Duncan
with 2 points. Yeah, 2 credit cookies. I think he had a really nice game. Again, when Miami needed that 3-point offense to kind of help stretch the lead or build a lead in any case, I think Duncan was there. I think he had a really nice game. 7 of 11 from the field, 3 of 6 from 3-point range, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, a steal. Looked really good. And I mean, I think he
had a rebound. Stole the ball from Cody Martin, I believe.
Yep.
And took it coast to coast, and then had like a slow motion Euro step at the basket.
Floater.
And it's like, all right, add that to the scouting report for Duncan Robinson. He was awesome. I think you have one more cookie left.
No, I've got 5. You're right, I do. Who do you want to
give it to Caleb Martin?
Sure.
I thought his defense was awesome. I know he only had 2 points in the game. He went 1 of 5 overall, 3 rebounds, a couple of assists. Like, it wasn't like a stat sheet game for Caleb Martin at all. And the inefficient shooting, he was the only one that was shooting inefficiently for Miami in this game.
Yeah,
but I thought it was the best defensive game he's had of the season.
Yes.
And that's not hyperbole. I thought that was the best defensive game he had all season. He made a difference.
Look sharper.
He made a difference in this game.
Look better physically. I think he's back. Yeah, I think he's back.
5. Yeah.
Yeah, the offense might be a work in progress, but he did look much better. Although it did kind of weird us out in media role seeing him guard Cody Martin for the very first time.
I joked it was like a Black Mirror episode. It was very, very strange.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's talk about Dwyane Wade, who's getting a bronze statue of him built in front of Kaseya Center. What does it mean? What should that statue look like? And what other tidbits do we have? What other information do we have about what that statue might be? We'll talk about that next year on Locked On Heat.
Today's episode is brought to you by Jase Medical. Look, I know that everybody's listening to this podcast because they kind of want to escape from the realities of life. But if we can, let's just talk a little bit about preparing for real life, because according to the FDA, pharmacies are running out of antibiotics like amoxicillin right in the middle of the worst flu season in over a decade. It can get scary out there. I can't imagine a more helpless feeling than if my son Jacob got sick while a supply chain issue kept him from getting the kind of medication they needed. Thankfully, we'll be okay because we've got Jase Medical. The Jase case is a pack of 5 different antibiotics to treat a long list of bacterial illnesses, respiratory infections, sinusitis, skin infections. This stuff could happen to any of us. So visit jasemedical.com and complete your physician encounter. It'll be reviewed by a board-certified physician, and your medications will be dispensed by a licensed pharmacy at a fraction of the regular cost. It's never been more important to be prepared than today. So go to Jase Medical, that's JASE medical.com, and use the offer code LOCKEDON to get $20 off your order.
Thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube and on your favorite podcast app every day, or we'll be right back here on Tuesday morning, Monday night, with our post-game reactions of that game in Brooklyn. Also, a reminder, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube. Subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. So it was Dwyane Wade's Hall of Fame honor night tonight. We knew ahead of time that they were going to have an interview with Jason Jackson at midcourt during the halftime process. We also got a chance to talk to Dwyane Wade in the media room after that was all done in front of the cameras. So a really cool night overall that I was really excited to be here for.
Yes.
But nobody saw what Pat Riley was going to do coming. Apparently, Pat Riley had kept this a secret from Eric Spoelstra and the team and from Dwyane Wade. Pat Riley, during the halftime interview, approaches Dwyane Wade with a bobblehead, kind of making these jokes about the bobblehead, and everybody's like, "Okay, what's happening? Here we go, Pat Riley." Like,
is the big gift here?
Yeah, he's gonna give him like a lousy bobblehead, and then he's like, "By the way, we're gonna do something a little bit bigger than this in front of the arena," and announced that the Heat are going to be erecting a statue of Dwyane Wade in front of Kaseya Center this fall. And everybody applauded and cheered. Dwyane Wade got really emotional, really actually had to pause and said it was an honor. He never dreamed anything like that can happen, and told us in the media room afterwards, like, growing up in Chicago, being able to see the statue of Michael Jordan was something that was able to inspire him. And now he knows that he could have perhaps a similar impact on kids when they come to visit Heat games and see the arena in downtown Miami. So just a really, really cool thing. I'm stoked. The Heat obviously don't have a statue of any other player. If there was going to be a first ever player to get a statue from the Miami Heat, obviously it's Dwyane Wade, the greatest player in franchise history.
Yep.
And I'm stoked, and I can't wait to see what it's going to look like.
Yeah, I am also equally stoked. I think it's a really exciting process. The idea of commemorating a special player in franchise history with this kind of thing that it can't erode. Like a jersey retirement ceremony might kind of I'd lose some value after some while, even though the jersey hangs from the rafters. Like even Pat Riley was kind of with some difficulty, a little awkward clumsiness there in his speech, kind of talking about, well, we've got nothing left to raise as a banner here. We've raised the championship banners. We retired your jersey already. We've retired, a banner commemorating your gold medal with the Olympics, etc. What else can we do? And that's where he starts making the conversation about the bobblehead. Everybody's like, what the hell is going on here?
Give you a bobblehead.
But then you get a statue. And the statue, and I liked what Dwyane mentioned there. Like, I've seen the statue of Jordan at the United Center in Chicago. And I mean, I used to love Jordan, watching him play throughout his career. And it's just impressive to think of, here's this statue of the greatest player in NBA history, at least in the opinion of many people. And so if you're a kid coming to Miami and you're going to the Kaseya Center and you didn't get a chance to see Dwyane Wade, but here you go and see the statue there that's larger than life in a pose that really resonates with you. And I hope they capture just the intensity and emotion of that moment, whatever it might be, although we have a pretty good idea of what it could be. But
well, the poll, I tweeted out a poll of what it should be. Would it be a fadeaway jumper? Would it be, him hoisting a trophy? Would it be something like that? The 2006 one with the hat off kilter a little bit, and the trophy in his hand. I mean, there's so many moments, but it's got to be that this is my house, right? And even Dwyane Wade after the game said, like, now I can say a little bit more that this is my house. It's got to be that. Some info on what this thing could look like, though. So it's going to be a bronze statue. So that's pretty cool. And it's being designed by the same people who did the Michael Jordan one.
Oh, interesting.
Who did the Shaquille O'Neal one that is underratedly cool in front of Staples or
the
Crypto
dunk.
or whatever. The dunking one. Yeah, where they actually have the brim hanging off the side of the building, and it's just Shaq in air hanging off that basket. It's like a really, really
iconic
cool
image of
Sure. And then they did the Dirk Nowitzki one, which is awesome. He's doing his patented Dirk fadeaway.
I haven't seen it. But
you haven't seen it?
No, I haven't.
Not in person. You've seen pictures of it. I mean, it's
maybe. Yeah.
So
maybe.
that one was revealed to rave reviews, and it's amazing. And so this is the company. They went and got the best of the best company to make this thing. What's really cool is we mentioned the Shaq one. It's very creative, and the Michael Jordan one is obviously the iconic pose, but the way that it's made with all the hands kind of below him and then kind of reaching up to him and stuff like that is also like very creative. So I think we're gonna get the "This Is My House." I would guess we're even gonna get like the scores table underneath them or something. Maybe that's like I think this is gonna be really, really cool, really creative, and I think we're gonna be really impressed. Not to put too much pressure on this company, but like I said, this is the best one. They got. I
think they put pressure on themselves already, so I think that makes sense. Yeah.
Anything else from Dwyane Wade night?
No, it was just, I think from everybody, it kind of just seemed that the energy is still very high. Like Dwyane talking about the fact that in Miami, he feels like the best player to ever play the game. Like he acknowledges he's not. I mean, an all-time great, whatever you want to call it, but in Miami, he is a hero and still beloved by the fans of this fan base. And I think that's just special to see him kind of get this again, being honored in this way for being a Hall of Fame level player and you know, defining the franchise for so many years. It's a really incredible honor.
Yeah, he is the greatest athlete in Miami sports history, not just Miami Heat history. He's done more winning than any player that's ever played in this town.
Him and Dan Marino.
Him and Marino, but you know,
separates themselves out.
It's just even with Marino, people love Marino. They do, but they don't respond to him the way that they respond to Dwyane Wade. When Dwyane Wade walks to the building, it is a celebrity unlike any other that's ever been through South Florida.
It's different. Like the emotions that Dwyane showed on the court,
yes,
kind of separate them. You know, there's the whole. I think it's a conversation piece that a lot of people have had. In football, you're kind of wearing the pads, you're wearing a helmet. You don't really see. You can see the emotion when they pump their fists and put their arms up in the air, etc. But with Dwyane, he's there, he's exposed, and we see him. And we see him again. That moment that we're talking about, he climbed almost into the stands to be a part of us as we're relishing that moment of that game winner when he says, "This is my house." And I think that's exactly what stands out is that fact that you know he feels like one of us.
He also, he embraced Miami in a way that. I don't do any of this to put Dan Marino down, but he embraced Miami in a way that Marino didn't, right? And that's, again, nothing against Marino. But he said this to us afterwards. Like, I got here when I was born in Chicago. I grew up in Chicago, but I grew up here.
Yep.
I came here at 21, and I was here for 15 years. Yeah. Like this is where he grew up. He became an adult. And obviously all the things that happened to him in life happened here. Helped him grow into the person he is today, who is, again, the most beloved icon in Miami sports history. And so for him to have that statue, it's going to be awesome. And it's just going to add something to just the
I can't wait
in front of Kaseya Center. I sometimes will run by Kaseya Center on like my running route, and now I'm going to be able to do that and see the Dwyane Wade statue. I mean, it's going to be cool. It's going to be really, really cool. All right. Did a certain Hornets player have a good tryout for the Heat ahead of the trade deadline? We'll talk about that next year on Locked On Heat.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL regular season is wrapping up. Well, but it's wrapped up for some teams, but there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets. Win or lose. The app is so easy to use, and there are so many different ways to bet, like live same-game parlays. You can find bets in the new Explore tab. You can make a parlay under the Parlay Hub. It's the best way to find popular parlays. There's so much more. Go take a look for yourself. Go visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, the official partner of the NFL.
Thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day, everydayers. We'll be back Monday night with our reactions to the game in Brooklyn. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube and on your favorite podcast app. Thanks to everybody who sent in questions for the post-game show using that hashtag on Twitter. Ask LO Heat. You can email us lockedonheat@gmail.com. We're also on Instagram, Locked On Heat. This first question is one that I'm making up and asking you, David. Did Terry Rozier have a good tryout for the Miami Heat tonight?
I don't know if it was a good tryout. I think it was indicative of exactly the kind of player who he is. He went 8 of 23 from the floor, so not great, not terribly efficient. We criticized Tyler for it. We criticized Terry Rozier for it. 4 of 11 from three-point range, but 6 of 6 from the free throw line, getting to the rim, taking a shot. Look, I mean, that's what he does. You know, he's not a great defender. He's kind of subpar in that range. He's got 7 assists, though, 5 rebounds, solid overall production, but he's a guy who can score. It's just a really bad team. And so without the complementary pieces to kind of make what Terry does, minimize the negative impacts of his overall approach to the game, it's just going to stand out as a wildly inefficient night. On Miami's roster, I think it would be a little different. Like you and I were talking about during the game. Like he's a guy who puts rim pressure. He's a guy who's willing to take that shot. Will it fall? Maybe. Well, you never really know. But for now, Miami kind of needs somebody who's just willing to generate and capable of generating offense by driving, making an attempt at the rim.
I think you highlighted the major thing there, the 6 free throws. Also, the 7 assists came with just 1 turnover. So in a playmaking aspect, he was efficient, even though the shooting wasn't necessarily there. The shooting wasn't there for the Hornets at all. Like there was a disease going through that roster of some sort of allergy to making baskets, and everybody caught it on that team. So I think Rozier could be better. He has been better defensively in other stops, whether it was in Boston or his earlier days in Charlotte.
Yeah, team concept, right? Yeah, they embrace defense. Despite the Steve Clifford, who loves defense, the Charlotte Hornets just aren't willing to play it.
I think Clifford wants to play defense. Doesn't sound like any of his players do. But look, I like Terry Rozier. You mentioned the getting to the basket. He gets 5.2 points at the rim, or 5.2 attempts at the rim every game. That's what he averages. That's more than Jimmy Butler. That's more than Bam Adebayo, even though Bam's a center. That's double what Tyler Herro gets. That is, I mean, Kyle Lowry is less than 1 shot at the rim per game. So that's basically doesn't even exist for him. So if you added a Terry Rozier to this team, depending on whatever he had to give up, which I would imagine the trade that we all talk about is like Kyle Lowry and a 2nd-round pick. Like, would Charlotte do that just to get off of Terry Rozier's salary? And would Miami be willing to bring in Terry Rozier's salary? I don't know. I think we've heard a lot of reports that they're out there for ball handling help. Rozier makes a lot of sense. I actually spoke to Terry Rozier after the game because his childhood hero was Dwyane Wade. So I asked him a little bit about that, and he just said it was really cool to be here for that moment. Right. It was a full circle moment for him, and things like that. So look, I like the fit. Obviously, we're just talking about his fit, not necessarily the trade and what it would look like specifically. But I think it's a good fit, and I thought the tryout was solid. If it didn't impress them, but they also know what Terry Rozier is about, and he's had really good games against Miami.
And it kind of stands out too in sharp contrast of Kyle Lowry playing 26 minutes, going 0 for 3 from the floor with 4 rebounds and 3 assists, 0 points, +7 overall. But I mean, just a kind of quiet, strange night for Kyle, where he just wasn't willing to take the shot and capable, to be honest with you.
Brian writes in, any thoughts that even with Lowry, Herro, Caleb Martin, and Haywood Highsmith all back, that Nikola Jovic was still the choice to start the game? What's your takeaway from that?
You and I kind of discussed it as we saw it. I think he might be the full-time starter moving forward, because I think now when you've got this fully healthy or healthy-ish roster and you see what he provides out there, he did wind up playing 28 minutes, starter minutes, really. So I think he's going to continue to be the starter at this point. And I know that we discussed the possibility of maybe if Jimmy does come back or when he comes back. And now, of course, we'll never find out now that Jaime is going to miss the next 2 games. But if Jimmy comes back and Jaime is healthy and available, does he get the starting nod? But I don't think so. I think Nikola is going to continue to be the starter at the power forward or whatever position that really is, because it doesn't matter on this roster because everybody's playing whatever opportunities. Like Haywood Highsmith was the point guard in the last game against the Orlando Magic. That didn't really count for much either. So I think he's going to continue to start. It was an okay game for him, 7 rebounds, telling the Herald's Anthony Chang that he recognizes he has to be a little bit better defensively. He's got a lot of work to do. So that's good self-awareness from him and recognizing there's a weakness there, and that's the only way he's going to continue to earn more playing time at whatever position he gets.
He's earned the playing time that he's gotten. It's still rough every once in a while. If the shot's not falling, he's still able to push the pace. Every game, something I've noticed, every game that he's started on this homestand, the first play of the game is having Nico initiate the offense. It's the first play.
Got the ball from
game
Lowry.
And they'll just flip it to him. And then he initiates something, whether it's some sort of horns action with Bam or a dribble handoff to Tyler or Duncan or whoever it is. It's always him initiating that first sort of trigger. And so they're empowering him. They are trying to get him to that next step of his development. And he's doing a better job. You mentioned the 7 rebounds. That's huge. 7, 8, 9 rebounds a game. He's getting more blocks. He's being a lot more physical by the basket. I still, look, like we said, the theme of the show is that the Hornets stink. It's easier to start Nikola Jovic against a bad team, and there's been some bad teams on this homestand, and then the game where he struggled the most was against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Now, a lot of players struggle against the Oklahoma City Thunder. They're very good. But I do wonder, look, Brooklyn, I'm not scared of anybody really on Brooklyn. I know like Mikal Bridges is good and stuff like that, but like I'm not scared of anybody on that team. So I think you can afford to start Nico again, but I think I've made this point before. If you go up against Boston, if you're in a game against Milwaukee or Philly or these teams, maybe not Philly necessarily because you can probably hide Nico in some places, but Boston, Milwaukee, there's no hiding Nikola Jovic in those matchups. And I do wonder what the strategy will be going into that game because but I like that they're using this time to get him those reps and get him those minutes. I don't know.
I think he can match up with Porzingis. I guess maybe. I mean, Porzingis has been pretty good at putting the ball on the floor for Boston and getting to the basket when he sees an opening. But we'll see, or not. I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and think that that Spoelstra has figured out his lineups halfway through the season because that never tends to be the case. I think he's going to keep experimenting, keep tinkering. I don't think Nikola Jovic will be the full-time starter for the rest of the season, but I think he'll start a few more games. Assuming he's even on the roster. Like you brought up that possibility, and maybe you don't want to say it on the show, but there is some rumbling that maybe he's being showcased as a starter. I mean,
ahead of the deadline.
That is your theory.
I don't know if it's my theory. It's just a question I'm asking.
Out loud.
But Caleb looked good tonight. Haywood has looked really good during this homestand. So I think they have an argument to be inserted back in that starting lineup. But we'll see. Again, we'll see when
I'm more surprised that he gets the
matchups are strong.
I'm more surprised that he got the backup center minutes and that you don't go to Orlando or Thomas Bryant.
That was a little curious. Bo's been trying to shorten that rotation. He went to 9 in this one. He was
That's
at
with
8
Caleb
the other
returning.
night. That was with Caleb coming back. So he's been. I don't think he trusts the centers very much, and I think he also likes to look. I think the one thing with Nico is he definitely adds an aspect of more playmaking in a way that Haywood doesn't. He adds size in a way that Caleb can't provide. And so I think that there's things that they like about Jovic. There's things that he provides that those guys don't. But again, depending on the matchup, I think they can go in a few different directions. So we'll see. But look, we don't have to predict the future. We can just enjoy the nice things that we have right now and not have to do all that extra work. All right. That'll do it for us today. Thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Follow us on your favorite podcast app. Every Dayers will be back Monday night with our reactions to the game in Brooklyn. Also, we recorded the entire Dwyane Wade media interview portion. So not the televised portion that everybody already saw, but the media portion. We recorded that. We put that up on the YouTube page. So you can check that out and hear Dwyane Wade talk about all these things for yourself. So go check that out. Thanks for making us your first listen every day.